What's up guys? In today's video we are talking about the 2 things you need to learn to have great people skills. Let's do it! Hi guys, welcome to People Skills One-on-One. Today we're talking about the 2 things you need to learn to have great people skills. So let's get right into it. We want to break down the 2 things that you need to learn to have great people skills. So let's start with number 1. Number 1 is you gotta have self-love. So what do I mean by this? Self-love is important in all aspects of life, but it's mostly important in people skills, and I'll explain the reasons why. Self-love is the foundation for anything in life. Really it is. It's how you feel about yourself, it's how you approach different topics. How you feel about yourself and what you think about yourself is how you will approach something. So if you do not have self-love when it comes to people skills, you will be always thinking in lack towards another person. And let me explain. The foundation of anything, let's say there's a building, the foundation needs to be very strong. That's what self-love is. Once you learn to love yourself, that's a good, strong foundation. Once we don't feel good about ourselves, it's a shaky foundation. We're unsure, we're uncertain, and we don't know how to treat people. So you must be able to have the ability to have self-love, to understand that where you're coming from is a good source, that you actually have a good foundation. See, people with strong senses of self, people with good senses of self-love are confident in themselves. And when you're truly confident in yourselves, that's when you can listen to other people, which we'll explain later on in other videos about how listening is very important to having great people skills. But if you do not love yourself, you're not going to be listening, truly listening with the intent to hear what the other person is saying, because you're going to be thinking about how you should respond or what this is saying about you. And if you do not truly love yourself, you're going to be sorting circumstances around yourself, which will unfortunately create this barrier of communication between you and the other person. It will break down all your ability to be able to communicate with the other person and to be able to be greater at something like people skills. See, the thing about any foundation is as soon as it is destroyed is when everything crumbles down. So self-love needs to be something that is constantly reinforced. It's something that is practiced every single day. It's very important once you learn how to love yourself internally that you're able to give love to other people, because once we break down the second part, you'll understand more about what I'm saying. But before we get into the second part, let me explain that once you do love yourself, once you do be able to build strong confidence in yourself, is when you will be able to truly see things from other people's point of view. And what I mean by that is, when there is love towards yourself, biases tend to go away. One of the main reasons why we have a bias is because our perceived situation has to do with something that we're threatened by. Let me explain what that means. Whenever you have a situation that you feel strongly emotionally oppositional towards, it's usually something that you're threatened by. And people with great people skills very rarely get threatened by other people because they truly love themselves. So what happens is people who don't love themselves tend to have a hard time communicating with other people because, well, there's that lack of certainty, there's that lack of confidence, there's that lack of self-worth. So every single thing that the other person is doing is sorted around how that person feels about themselves. So this creates a great destruction of what it takes to actually have great people skills. This is why sometimes when you see other people and they're talking to other people, but something seems fake, something seems off, it's because that person doesn't really love themselves and it's not genuine. It's fake, it's off. They're listening to the other person, they're communicating with the other person, but it's sorted around themselves. That's where arrogance comes from, which we'll talk about in a later video. Let's get into topic number 2. Now, step number 2, the second thing that you want to have, the second thing that you want to learn to have great people skills is love for others. And I know it kind of sounds like self-love, love for others, yin, yang. It's very true. Let me explain. So, love for others is extremely imperative in life. And what I mean by that is, let's look at love for a second. Love is the most powerful force in the universe as far as emotions are considered. Why do I say that? I say that because love is one of the emotions that you will stack a circumstance up against, in the sense that you would die for the feeling of love. You would die for somebody that you truly, really love. So that's how powerful love is. So once you adopt those feelings of love towards other human beings, towards your fellow man, towards the person that you're working alongside, towards your neighbor, what happens is you begin to understand their world. You begin to adopt compassion, curiosity, empathy. And when you adopt these certain traits, what happens is you no longer sort the circumstances around yourself, you sort the circumstances around them. You see the world from their picture. You see the world from their eyes. You see the world truly as what they are seeing, because you love them, so you're empathetic towards their situation. Now, once you do have self-love, your goal is to be empathetic and compassionate, and also to help grow the other person, or to help understand and listen to what the other person is going through. What happens is when we don't have that self-love and we tend to just, listen to the other person, we truly can't really love other people. And the reasoning why behind that is because if you don't have something that you can give yourself, it's very hard to duplicate it to the other person. So the second step in loving others is imperative. This is the foundation is self-love, and I like to call the foundation, like a building is the foundation, and that's self-love. And the second step is love for others, and I like to call that the resort instead of the building, because resort is open up to a lot of different people. Resorts are the vacation, and they're open up to a lot of different people. So that love for others needs to be a resort. It's open to as many people as possible. The ability to lead and love others comes from those two pillars: self-love and love for others. These traits are something that you need to adapt, and I'll go into deeper videos on how you can adapt these traits, but I'll give you a couple pointers. If you want to learn to love yourself, you got to treat yourself as a special guest, as a very important person. What I mean by that is when you invite a friend over, when you invite a family member over to your house, how you treat them. You make sure that there's drinks in the cooler, you make sure that there is, the bathrooms are clean, you make sure that you're taking care of them. But what happens is we tend to give ourselves less leeway than we give other people. We need to start giving ourselves more leeway. We need to start understanding ourselves a little bit better, and the fact that we're looking for love too, and that it's okay that we're looking for love, and that we need to understand that because we're looking for love, it means that we want to give love to other people too. And really, that's a good source of things. That's a good source of how we can love each other. And the second tip of how you can love other people, most people who say, I'm not a people person, I don't like people, lack this emotion. They lack curiosity. If you truly love others or are learning about other people, you genuinely embrace curiosity. If you are curious, if you're constantly stimulating being curious towards other people, you will learn as much as you possibly can from other people. You'll learn about their viewpoints, you'll learn about their world, what they perceive, what they see. And these things are very important in order to develop communication skills further along down the road, which we'll get into in further videos. This is the basis of all great people skills. Think about it. If you've ever met somebody who has been great with people, are they good in these two traits? Are they good in loving others? Are they good at loving themselves? They appear confident, don't they? They appear that they really care about you, don't they? These are the two things you must learn in order to have great people skills. This is the foundation and the resort. The foundation of self-love is important. You gotta learn to love yourself. The resort of being open to other people, to listening to other people, to be genuinely caring about other people is the most imperative thing that you could ever do when it comes to learning about other people. You know, people tend to overcomplicate people's skills, and we're gonna go into a lot of deep topics, but this is the basic principles of all people skills. That's why this first video on people skills one-on-one is all about these two things, self-love and love for others. So here's a quick little exercise that you can do. The next time you are approaching any situation, a communication with someone else, another human being, sort the circumstance around how you love yourself and how you can turn that into love for other people. And what I mean is, I'll give you a for instance. So let's say you are just having a conversation with a barista at a coffee shop. So for instance, you could say, man, if I really feel good about myself and I love myself, I can be confident enough to talk to this stranger and embrace this stranger and say, hey, what's going on? How are you doing? How's your day going when you get off your shift? And these type of genuine things that you actually care about instead of just throwing it away as saying, hey, what's up? How you doing? Hey, what's going on? All those basic sayings that we tend to adopt as human beings because it's our way of communicating and saying hello, backed with self-love, is something that will come across as genuine. So when you actually have that curiosity adapted, once you actually are curious about what is going on with the other person, whether it be the stranger, whether it be someone that you know but you don't know all too well, and you adopt that curiosity, what's gonna happen is one or two things. One, you're gonna have a great conversation. Mostly, that's what happens in almost every single circumstance that I have. Usually I have a great brief conversation and there's a connection that's built, and it's very energetic and it sparks something greater, and you can usually tell that other person feels really good about it and you feel really good about it to yourself. Or the other thing that'll happen is the person will shut down. And usually what happens is when the person shuts down, I know that is because they're struggling with the first step of people skills, and that is they're struggling with love for themselves. We all struggle with this daily, so don't get me wrong. I struggle with it, you struggle with it. Well, it's something we will always struggle with, but they're struggling with it in a more greater fashion, so they're a little bit more guarded. They sort circumstances around themselves. So if you say something to them like, hey, how's your day going? They're gonna be guarded, like, why are they asking me? What do they want from me? And they're gonna be very self-protected and reserved. That's okay. The point is you actually made the effort. You gave the actual love for others and you projected it towards them. Now, don't get discouraged if it doesn't happen right away, if people don't communicate, if they don't respond right away. Make this a habit. Make this something that you do every single day. This is in order to develop great people skills. You know, Robert Kiyosaki said it takes 3 things to develop a business, and one of those things was people skills. It's very true. People skills are something that you need to have in order to run a good business. Also, not just to run a good business, but to run the business of life, to make sure there's profit from your conversations, to make sure that there is abundance in no matter what relationship that you have. See, business and life are very similar in the sense that the more effort that you put on something to get profit from, to get abundance from, the more return you will get. And human beings are very similar. So the more intention that you give on getting abundance from the other person or for the other person, the more that you'll get back from. So people skills is one of those very, very tricky things that people tend to talk about. Some people are like, yeah, you don't need it. Some people are like, yeah, I got great people skills. People skills are something that you should always be sharpening. You should always be getting better at. It's like a knife. You use it every single day, you're just gonna have to keep on sharpening it, making sure it gets better every single day. Especially in today's days and age, when we're all so consumed about what the other person might be thinking. And that's why the foundation of self-love is super, super important. So, if you wanna watch more videos like this, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. We're doing more people skills videos every single week. Make sure you comment on the video. Make sure you punch the like button so it goes like that. Yeah, so join us next week for our next video on people skills one-on-one, and you can learn how to become a master in the skills of learning what people do and the reasons why they do them.